Now, and then it has a little finial there. All the mud called earth. It's called a cat, or it's called a what? A mortar board. A mortar board symbolizes masonry. Mother and son, you see? And so, if you pull this cord up with the oblique stitching, it would turn into a pyramid. You see? So that's a duplication still of 360 degrees. So that's what you got on your head. And we can go deeper in that, but basically, that's why everybody who rules on the planet in their secret chambers wear your Moorish fez, because they're ruling the planet. Don't belong to them, belong to you. But our people don't want to honor their mothers and fathers, so they're subjugated to Rome. And this is what the secret, the 12 chapters of the secret Franciscan Brotherhood is that rules the earth, or the Bishopric of Rome. So Rome is the substitute. This is why they take the position of vicar, which means substitute. You see? You know, so everything that they do is based on projection. But then you have to understand the history in order to understand part of their motive. Are we clear? Are we clear? However, and in spite of their operations, the very sun that maintains life in this particular solar system seeks to kill that body they're in. So they have a dilemma too, don't they? So they gain the whole world and losing their soul. You know, and and so a lot of their anger with you is also that they've been given the keys to the 8 ball. This is why you see them, that the sign of infinity is popular with them. That's the 8 ball, 8 laid sideways. And so they've taken essentially the universe or eternity in a sense and laid it on his head type thing. If you get, in other words, they literally turn the world upside down. Now the deal is, the curiosity with the people is, who know some of their ancient history, is how is it that Rome continues to rule them when they know Rome has a weak body, if you get the point. It is the knowledge that is the key to the power. Are we clear? Are we clear? And so this is again why, like you'll see, Roman operatives like John D. Rockefeller, Frederick T. Gates, Bertrand Russell, etc., have projected in all the education systems of the Christian order of Constantine that the people would be educated to be servants alone, and there would be nothing given in your education that would develop anything in real spiritual power in you. And this is again why it's important for them to control the semantics and language. But again, you know, once you understand the motive of their operations and understand that Kyklos, or what the masses know as Ku Klux Klan, are the grand protectors of the Christian creed of Constantine. You know, so you have the heirs of the estate worshiping Constantine in the name of Jesus, and then wondering why they make no progress. It's called projection. See, so they've used the energy of the fiction of Serapis and Constantine to project the image that they present as Jesus, which is actually Rome, and they've taken the heirs, and the heirs have been worshiping Constantine under the Roman order for generations, and wonder why their families are destroyed, and wonder why all they see is death, destruction, blood, broken families, broken marriages, and everything else. Birth certificate, bank accounts, IRS taking all of their accounts, gentrifying their communities and everything. But because they will not render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, thinking that they're worshiping Jesus, it guarantees Rome's power. And so that is all done by projection. This is why before we opened this up, we came into reminding you of projection. Because if you don't read these texts with the knowledge of projection, you would still misunderstand the text. All right? So everything that Rome does is what you would call imitation, substitute, impersonation, projection. All right? So anyway, so when you see the cap and gown, when people graduate, and this is where you have the ritual where they throw it up in the ethers, that symbolizes ascension. You know, symbolizes ascension. You know, so that's another thing for you. So even those of you who have feds need to know what you got on your head, and need to know why Rome and all your secret societies wear the Moorish fez while pretending that they don't know that these people are Moors, and why those among your own who are sellouts will keep denying it and say, no, you're not Moor, you're black, and put you in under the Christian black codes. That's their oath to Rome, and that's where they get their kickback. This is why a lot of them will fight you tooth and nail when you start exposing this information on clear. However, you know, you don't preoccupy yourself trying to convince them, because most of them really in their hearts already know that they're Moors. But their source of food is Rome. Rome feeds them sandwiches, give them free sandwiches and give them all kind of benefits. And so they're willing to sell their own children out for a job. This is where you get the book of Job in the Bible. Job, 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 long O, short O. It's still a job. You know, and so they really don't fear no God in heaven and creator. They fear Rome. Rome is their God. And so that projection operations must be maintained for Rome to rule, are we clear? And those who have benefited, those among our people who have benefited from it, want to maintain that Christian doctrine, because they know that the people believe, not know, that it has to do with Jesus, son of Yusuf, Yahshua ben Yusuf, son of God, type thing, who had absolutely nothing to do with it. You know, so it guarantees the destruction of the descendants of Ham and Cush for generations and generations and generations. This is the problem with the so-called black community. They don't know themselves, they don't know the history, so therefore even when they're trying to think correct, they can't fix anything because their concepts are all wrong. Because the information that they got is what? Anthropomorphic. One. Number two, they don't know that Africa, they're standing on it, so they're displaced mentally. Number three, they don't know that the Pyramid University in Mexico is the oldest school in the world. So in order to distract the people, the anthropologists of the world will just say, the world's oldest university is in Morocco. They'll tell you that. And then the mind of the people keep going to the kingdom. But they're really talking about the Yucatan. You see? That's called projection. Now, key is the more you know about the ancient history, because what it does, it exposes you to memory, even though you don't currently activate it. And so in due time, what it does, it's not unlike the nature of things where you put water on a dry seed. It has nothing to do with what you think or what you don't think. You put water on a dry seed, even if it's not in soil. If it's in soil where moisture can be contained for a while, it's good, but you can do it in a napkin or anything like that. And if the sun and the moon has access to it, that seed's going to germinate. The sun, the moon, and Venus, you know what I mean? And so you look at the same way when you bring some of the ancient Moabite knowledge to the descendants, no matter how many generations removed, it's actually in their DNA, you know. And so one of the things that those who use projection don't want is you to ever figure that out, because the concept is what they need to do and want to do is to keep you in the state of mind that you have to go to their schools to activate the pioneer land, or to activate the mind. Are we clear? Are we clear? Clear. Now, when you understand that, you know, little by little, the things that have been used by the projectionists will themselves fade. And that is also what's referred to in Septuaginta in the Bible as the illusions of the world. And so the illusions of the world is really the illusions that we have with the education system. Are we clear? Now, again, this is again why we're going through this lesson. All right, turn the shadow of the lights down, please, again. Now, so a man's use of a physical body should be such that he could be neither animal nor spirit being, then he must be born human and not angelic. So keep in mind, hue is really essentially in proportion expressive in language of spirit. And man is manifest, are we clear? So spirit manifests, basically what human is. And not angelic. Human is from the Germanic language and it means spirit being. The word man is also from the German and in reference to the animal part of mankind. Hence, tradition shows that higher involved beings offer themselves as the redeemers of man by endowing them, or him, the humans, with human affections and aspirations. Now, the fall of the Moabite nation was the conclusion of a cycle of experiences, just as all things begin, live through, and finish cycles of experiences. At the same time, a new cycle of experiences was beginning for different types of beings. And out of the ruins of the old comes the birth of the new. And this is an eternal truth, and it applies to all modes of life, from the simple atom to entire galaxies. As above, so below. So now you understand the metaphysical meaning of Hexaphoros, or what you would call the Star of Suleiman, or what they call the Jewish star. Are we clear? That symbolizes the Kabbalistic or Hermetic rule of law, as above, so below. And so the fundamental rules of the operations of the universe is really part of your Islam science that should be taught you in science, not in dogma. Are we clear? At the time of Yakut's experiments, the Earth's atmosphere was very different. There were planets in the solar system that are no longer visible in this day and age. Having inherited them tremendous occult knowledge and mystical powers from his priestly father, Mordulakaniel, Yakut was able to communicate with beings from other planets who were more mystically steeped in magic and science than he was. He even traveled to their planets with them in order to increase his own knowledge. In the 4th chapter of Genesis, references are made to some of these beings from outer space who were called the sons of God. Yakut learned how to experiment with all forms of magic, and it is even stated in volume 2 of The Secret Doctrine by H.P. Blavatsky that the divine kings descended and taught men sciences and arts, for men could no longer live in the first land, Eden. Now, in knowledge of biology, anatomy, organic chemistry, pigmentation, botany, electronics, and the magnetic laws of opposite attraction involving steel and iron elements were some of the sciences that women scientists and Yakut used to create the ruddy-skinned sons through animalistic experimentation, so as to manifest the great human bouquet through a measurable process of global amalgamation with the Asiatic nation. But much more important than the Moabites' knowledge of the physical sciences was their understanding of the occult or hidden forces which were utilized to make manifest the objects of their experiments. Now, once you understand this, you'll understand why the great Hikuptan, or they'll refer to him as the great Egyptian Adam, Nobdrali, enters you immediately when you begin to learn of your nationality and birthright. You say you must learn of your higher self and your lower self, because you must know who the enemy is. The enemy is not just always outside you. You need to understand that, because you must overcome that too. So one of the dynamics of the socialization that we are going through right now, in order for some of the people to survive the dynamics of present time, is to know this history so that Rome don't eliminate you. Because the more you're steeped into the Roman psychology, the more susceptible you are to elimination. Are we clear? Because you have no natural defenses. It's sort of like putting a rabbit in a large cage fence and talk about run because they're shooting at you. You may as well just stand still because you're not going anywhere. And so forth, you must ascend. So the humans are put in a dilemma position, and this is back to earlier, Sister Tamara, when some people say, you know, what good is it going to do me? Mm-hmm. You know, and it's because they've given up, or what they're really admitting to is that they're committed to serve Rome. That's really what they're saying. You need to understand language. And with such persons, you don't argue with them because they've told you who their master is. And their master is their God. And so as Rome is dismantled, so must they be, because they be the very ones that will sell your babies out. And this is where it talks about, like in the Bible in Septuaginta, where it says 2 will be in the field, 1 will be taken, and the other will be left, which means do not get emotionally attached. Just because it's somebody you know or your relative. In other words, because as this transition is taking place, some will have to be disappeared. And it's just simply that, in order for humanity to progress. Are we clear? And it's just the truth. You know, but the deal of it is, it's not some kind of spooky concept that the people have that they've been given by the clergy. You have the actual operations of human evolution. And of course, if they have a knowledge of the ephemerides operations of what you call cycle timekeeping, you know, they'd be more harmonic with nature, and also the dark priesthood would not be able to operate on their mentality so strongly and take the power position, or what is called, like in the book of Thessalonians 1 and 2, where Yeshua says, remember when I was yet with you, I told you they would call themselves gods and sit themselves on the throne claiming to be God. This is what you're dealing with now. So again, it's important to understand the history so that you don't fall into the mysticism of thinking that, you know, when they say God, they're talking about the absolute creator of the universe and all operations. They're not. You have different men and beings that are vying for power over the resources of the earth. Are we clear? And so most of the time when people are in their mind worshiping God, unbeknownst to them, they're actually worshiping Rome, starting with the Pope. And then those who are what you call assigns or agents, or what's referred to as familiars. And from your familiars come your oligarchs that have been actually controlling the Earth's energies. And you have roughly 12 to 13 European families that have taken on the powers of Rome to exercise powers over the resources of the Moorish nation. And that's your world economy. All the governments are fronts, are parasites. Are we clear? None of them in the general serve the people. None. The people are food. Are we clear? Mm-hmm. Now, in order for humanity to get out from the iron yoke, now when you deal with the energies that was also used in experimentation, now you understand why the European put so much emphasis on what is called the Iron Cross. Yes. You know, so different things that you hear about in culture and in society have an absolute origin in the ancient world. And is preserved by the truth of the history being preserved by a select few in order for them to rule the masses. Are we clear? Now, they themselves promote dogma as religion for control purposes. Are we clear? The key to the dark priesthood is for you not to figure that out, and for those who know not to tell you. And so usually, well, as a standard of operations, actually, those who know and are not necessarily harmonic with Rome, those are the ones they either kill or they'll pay them off, and they'll make them Negro leader guys and march people around, keep them pacified while they're getting raped. Are we clear? And that buys Rome time. Because the real deal of it is, as you evolve, you will recognize that you don't need any of them to rule you, that they've all been parasitic. And then you will start activating your glandular system yourself, and then nature herself actually starts coming to your aid and tapping you for what you call downloading. All right? And this is, again, they don't want you to know that because if you lose faith in their institutions, that's where their projections are. See, because they have to have power over you, so you have to give them power by accepting their dogma. That's their key. See, their key is not so much that they have absolute power. The real power that they have over people is the knowledge of technology that they suppressed. Not theirs, the technologies of your ancient mothers and fathers. Unclear? And this is where you have expurgatorius, librorum prohibitorum, and librorum expurgatorius, and the great Constantinian Christian book burnings to put the world into darkness, and you are and have been the target. It's just that simple. You know, straight, cut, and dry, to the point. And so once you understand that, you know, you also understand that he has some motive as to that, because he is really the slave, if you get the point. And so you understand that Kaiklos, or Ku Klux Klan, which is the grand protectors of the Christian creed, what you call KKK, why they set up the Democratic Party to overthrow the Republic under the secret treaty of Verona. And so this is where you see the basis of the argument going on between Trump and the so-called Ku Klux Klan Party, which is the Democratic Party that the people actually think has been working for them, when it's actually been working to destroy them and to destroy the Republic. Now, that's not a defense of trust, because I always say, when you look at the occupiers fighting amongst themselves, just because one is fighting more on the side of principle does not mean he's fighting for you. He's fighting for spoils that they both stole from you. You get the point? So again, this is another reason why we're sharing this lesson, because people have a tendency, particularly, to keep thinking that the politics that they're experiencing today is operative in a vacuum. It is not. Are we clear? And this includes people that you've trusted that look like you and me, that are in high degrees of the clergy, whether you're talking about Islam, Judaism, or Christianity, and in secret, 9 out of every 10 of them is kissing the hand of the Pope, whether they claim to be Islamic, Judah, or Christianity. Are we clear? Okay. Now, the key is, and the operation is that this paradigm of their network that has fingered the world, the octopus of the Niceno-Constantinopolitan operations of their Inquisition hegemony, is being dismantled. Part of some of the operations of Donald Trump's assignment, and contrary to what people may think, some of the assignment of Barack H. Obama before him all have to do with this matter of dismantling the tentacles of the operations of the hegemony of the Inquisition. And so you'll see these things intensifying and intensifying and intensifying. Now, the deal of it is, the people have not had right of access to their own resources, even to their labor. And this is back to our earlier conversation. You know, this is what their tax is. The tax is a tithe. You know, projected by a body of men of oligarchy that in fact are not your government. They're foreign Europeans belonging to the Roman Curia. And all of the corporate, give your brother a mic, and all of the corporate entities operating at North America are members, the heads are members of the Roman Curia, and most of their administrative bodies are cognizant of that fact.
And I could be wrong.
Turn it on.
There? Okay. From my understanding,
Get in the mic.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. From my understanding,
Get in the mic.
taxes are like interest on a principal.
Now, you're talking about income. Income is interest on the principal.
Not income. I was
No, I'm saying that because people are hearing you, And that statement is specific.
Okay.
Interest on the principal is called income. That's applied to corporate entities in the privilege of doing business. And that is only and always income. Nothing else is income. So when you understand that, you understand that ordinary wages should not be taxed as income. But it shows you by projection that the average person, due to their miseducation, actually think that their labor is income. This is the projection. This is, again, why they need to know what's really going on. Because, you know, it's sort of like our people can't evolve because we're in the animal form or in the physical form. To be stable if we can't get our economic act together. And so if you're not aware that your labor has been hypothecated by the priest of Rome under the guise of government, you continue to serve Rome to your own demise, paying for your own enslavement, and wondering why you can't get out of this hole no matter how many JOBs you have, no matter how many JOBs your wife got, and your brother and your cousin. Let me give you an example. You know, because the people don't understand projection and they don't understand that they haven't been allowed to have money. As an example, for many of you who are here, maybe like yourself, you might be like the brother here, you might be talking your childhood in the 60s, 70s. Do you understand? Now, if given a chart as an example of value and how private commercial paper works, right? As an example, when I was 19, because I'm speaking from fact, right? My furniture in my house was from Van Skyler in Camden, and that was like top of the line of top of the line. Meaning that's where wealthy people came from all the surrounding areas to buy their furniture. Now, my furniture, a lot of my furniture was from Van Skyler because I worked there, not because I could afford it, but I could afford it to some degree because I worked there. And then also I did body work, you know, auto body work at that time. Now, at 19 and 20, I had a Chrysler Imperial Crown and a Chrysler 300 SJ. Both cars, which today would be expensive, that I can't afford now, moving bigger numbers are clear. Power of fiat. You know, pictures on my wall, like you see them pictures there. Now, those are imitations, but I had pictures on my wall, small pictures, that at that time was $300 and $400 a piece, and they had what you call gold inlay. As a matter of fact, when I used to go up and down moving furniture around, even a couple of pictures that I ordered, the guy was sitting there. The gold would come in like books that looked just like matchboxes. And he was sitting at a table in what you call a closed room, and with a paintbrush with adhesive, and you paint the frame, and he take tweezers and lay the gold on the frame, and then take a soft brush like a makeup brush and brush it in. Now, there's no way I can afford that now. Do you understand? But at 19 and 20, that's why I had my house. I had imported lamps from Germany with real German crystal and marble tops. I couldn't afford none of that stuff now, and I thought I was poor. In my mind, none of that stuff I couldn't afford now. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Now, when you look at projection, things that it's called like this. Now, my Imperial was paid for. My 300 wasn't paid for. You know, I owed about 600 notes on that. But my Imperial was paid for, and that was the more expensive car. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Now that Imperial, that Chrysler 300 with the Hemi in it, at auction you can't get that for less than $150,000 now. That's one of the most highest priced cars that you can get in car collection. You get more for that than you get for a Rolls Royce. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Now, the projection is our concepts, the way people's mind have been groomed, is that we're doing better. that we're making more money. No, you're not. It has no value. Now, the deal of it is also the misclassification of the humans under the corporate operations of the conversion of the private United States corporation company registered in Puerto Rico, listing you as their corporate U.S. citizen or stock, is why your labor is taxed as income tax. So with the knowledge of this history and how you got to where you are, if we can get these people to understand, this is back to the question earlier, Tamara, with many people, what good does it do them? It's sort of like you can't give them anything, they can stop the bleeding themselves. Because when they declare their nationality, the bonds that are issued against the name of the marriage certificate and birth certificate that's on Water Street in a name that sounds like theirs is the basis on how that they've been claiming your estates, and even how all property, even when you get sick or die, keeps going into probate automatically, and the state simply takes it. This is key to their wealth. So, and remember, it's projection, because they're not Americans. They're hybrid Europeans occupying America. You know, but as long as we keep calling them Americans, and as long as we keep calling them white people, we're just giving them the sovereignty. And all they need to do is spiritually exercise it, and they're justified because you're an heir, and you just made a trust statement. This is another reason why, you know, we keep telling people, stop calling themselves black. They're looking at it on a purely etymological basis, not understanding it's political. And it's operative too. It is absolutely operative. You know, and knowing that most of them, because they're spooked up in the name of religion with dogma, will reject what I just said, although it's absolutely provable. So you just keep doing the work and trusting that some mothers with pure hearts will bring some bodies here with more pure intentions, and it's from those youth or from them babies the truth will come. Because the elders are just so damn corrupt, they're pretty much worthy of being ground up anyway. So as the European starts using them for hamburger and stuff, don't cry about it. I mean, you feel bad, you don't want any beings injured, but the earth has to be fixed. You know, and the best way to begin to fix it is tell the true history of the human family, so that we can stop feeling sorry for ourselves, you know, stop playing victim, and so that the European can stop playing God. And most of all, for us to dump the idol God system that we bought into from Rome, thinking it came from our ancient fathers when it has nothing to do with our ancient fathers. All right? So let's cool down. So seeing the errors which resulted in the collapse and ruin of his generation, Yakub, possessing a tremendous ego, desired to show the ruling Moabite officials that his brilliance could produce better beings. But even though he was refused his heart's desire, he was still given dominion over a group of islands on which he was allowed to study and to conduct experiments. Now, to tell you this history, the Europeans made a movie in French. It's called Isle of Dr. Moreau. And Moreau is French for Moor. And so they're talking about these islands, and then they'll show you human and animalistic experimentation. They're really telling you the real history. The only part they ain't telling you that they're Frankenstein. Because that's what Frankenstein is also symbolically telling you that history too. With a partly twisted purpose in mind to show up the Moabites. And so this competition that you see that started in ancient, central, Amexem, Olmec, continued into all your later dynasties, even the Almoravids, Almoravites, etc., and even the fall later of the Alhambra with the battles between the Moorish dynasties and the relinquishing of the Red House to the popes of Rome, etc., and the feudal lords. And this is why they do the celebration of the Mummers Parade at Philadelphia January 1st, because that's when the house fell. Are we clear? That's not New Year, that's when the house fell. All right, so that's a very important parade for all European Germanic sons, the German Dutch. Are we clear? Right. So I'm only telling you this, although many of you already know this, and some of you may be in different lodges too, then you've gotten some of these stories in allegorical stories, and some of you who are addicts in different orders know this information anyway. But the general masses don't know this information because it's not exposed to the general masses. So with a partly twisted purpose in mind to show up the Moabites and to humanize the present civilization in order to keep it on the upswing, he labored for 40 years on these islands until his experiments bore fruit. Yaqub then used the mountain and jungle regions of Yucatan, Honduras, Venezuela, Argentina, and Amazon jungle of Brazil as the environments for his first creations. And I'm telling you, that's where they're trying to stop the third, what they're calling the Third World War. Venezuela, Brazil, Colombia, etc., Mexico. And this has much to do with the wall. And this is why you see the immigrations coming from Guatemala, Honduras, Venezuela, etc., and including the Europeans for the Kabbalistic order of the Knights of Columbus and the Knights of Malta, trying to steal the oil fields in Venezuela. That's what these threats to Venezuela are right now today. Are we clear? And when you don't know that that past and present are absolutely related, logically your concepts will be wrong. Are we clear? So when you understand the real history, you understand why everybody's upset with Donald Trump, because he didn't come through the order. Although he's a Templar, he didn't come through the order as structured. Are we clear? Now, so they're all his enemies. It's not that they don't agree with things that he says. Doesn't matter what he says. They're going to declare him out to lunch. Are we clear? Because he's dismantling their system. Are we clear? Now, people who don't understand it. Now, keep in mind that, contrary to what most people think, Trump is not acting on his own. He's assigned. Are we clear? So he is sort of like, they'll assign things to him because he's like the signpost. Are we clear? But it's not Trump. He's assigned by certain factions of the military who are responding to the fact that the nations of the earth are no longer wanting to do business with Babylon. Are we clear? And if they don't save the ship, it's going to burn and sink. Are we clear? So some of what Trump is doing is by necessity. Are we clear? And this has to do also with responses to the Manchurian elders that they will call the Chinese elders and others whose gold they've been using for the last 55 years to back their corporation. Are we clear? And this is also why over the last 25 years or so, many of the Khazarians have moved some of their businesses to China in order to create slave labor, because they already softened them up with the opium wars. Are we clear? Earlier. So now they're waging the opium wars at the north. And this is why, in your poor areas, you see the heroin and the opium epidemic in North America now all over the place. So these are things that Donald Trump is countering, because that's been the source of them maintaining the Inquisition hegemony. Are we clear? And the destabilization. So it's not that so much that Donald Trump is the savior of anything. He's caught in a default situation. Are we clear? Are we clear?
Clear.
So some things that he will be doing will be actually in your favor, but take it with a grain of salt. But it'd be better if you yourself get your head together and get clean in your head about what's really going on, because the energy that you literally emit into the atmosphere is actually the power that they don't want you to. You're that energy. So they'll keep your mind on Tesla and things that Tesla did, rather than letting you know that that energy source is actually you. So you'd be thinking about a tower that they made, or some polar that they stuck in the ground. It's you. Are we clear?
Clear.
All right. So Yakub then used the mountain and the jungle regions of Yucatan, Honduras, Venezuela, Argentina, and the Amazon jungle of Brazil as the environments for his first creations, and the waters of the Pacific were used in addition to Central and South America. Yakub took the best of the Moabite nation, which represented civilization, intellect, and spirituality, and made it with the potential best of the upcoming race, which represented cunning, ruthlessness. Now, pay attention to that, ruthlessness and spirituality. And these experiments resulted in the culmination of the fall of the Moabite civilization and the rise of another, which brought ignorance, superstition, human hatred, amalgamation, medical science, human warfare, bloodshed, destruction, starvation, and sorrow. Such is the great price humanity has paid for the human bouquet. This is what they don't want you to figure out now. You understand why Drali say we don't seek to amalgamate with the pale-skinned nations of Europe? Meaning that you don't continue the demise of the human family. Now the deal of it is that the sun itself is, and this is why people are upset. And this is also not only to control population and to reduce the population, or they're doing what you call the barium oxide and the flues made in Georgia, and the other chemicals to reduce the population. This is why a lot of people got colds, is because they made a big drop here, all along the East Coast. So most of you got flu, or your family got flu. You know, and it ain't no germ, it's germ warfare. Go ahead, brother.
Yes, I was just down in Atlanta not too long ago, and they are the first city that is basically giving you a shot to prevent you from getting HIV.
They're giving HIV. They're not preventing, they're giving it.
Just like with the flu, they give you a flu shot.
Let's back up.
Legally.
What's mean illegally?
Well,
I know what you're saying.
Yes, sir.
But what I'm presenting to you is the very concept that we keep thinking that they have lawful right to do this as government. They're not your government, number one. When they were going into Asia, in the northern part of Asia, to steal the tin and to take control of the opium, etc., that the Franciscan brothers were losing power. That's the French wars in Vietnam, Cambodia, etc. With the experiments that they were doing here under the Sanger operations of eugenics, etc., they created what is called a retrovirus. And the experiments were mainly on animals, and the swine or the pig was one of them. And so they discovered this retrovirus in the pigs, and so they harnessed it and used it in what they call Agent Orange and other defoliants that they poured over Asia to kill the plant life, etc. And the retrovirus that they discovered in the pigs is what is actually the progenitor of what they call the killing or the neutralization of the immune system. It itself is not, in other words, AIDS itself as a virus doesn't exist. As a sickness, it does not exist. It is the result of the retrovirus operations, of the eugenic operations of killing the immune system. That's what AIDS is. AIDS is the results, not the thing. And there's around 65, 66, you know, and of course, then they pushed the promotion of, you know, pork products. And so our people been, this is why when you look in the last 20, 30 years, our women have been fatter than they've ever been. And it's in their foods, you know, and cancers more than they ever had. You know, cancer wasn't even talked about in our community. You know, when you talk a few generations back, You know, if they had pneumonia, that was like the real serious thing.
Right.
You know, now they got all kinds of sicknesses. You see them in the 30s walking with canes and don't even understand that they're being attacked. You know, but anyway, the point of it is that AIDS doesn't exist in the concept that people think. They think it's a virus that's somewhere. It's not. It's a retrovirus that is used to kill the immune system that they tested on pigs during the Vietnam War operations for genocide. And they introduced it, particularly the retrovirus, in all African countries to reduce the population. And anywhere where they tell you they're giving you a shot to prevent something, they're giving you a shot to promote what they're telling you they're preventing, including other things. You know, now that's just simply a fact. And so the deal is, we better go back to the state of mind of our ancient mothers and fathers and start activating our memory. You know what I mean? And rendering on the Caesar what is Caesar's, you know, because that's where you're really being pushed to do. You know, because that is your salvation. Give Brother Mike. Go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me? I don't want to.
I can't.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because remember, when I tell you get on the mic, it's because you're on film.
Okay, not a problem. And I don't want to get too sidetracked and let.
Well, go ahead.
This is.
It ain't nothing sidetracked, really. Go ahead.
And I came here tonight specifically for some of this particular information that I'm inquiring about now. Protecting yourself from the, from the
State of mind. What I'm presenting to you is that a lot of our protection, see, because basically you've been laid bare. Meaning that they've taken the what you call the physical weapons from the people. They've abrogated the Constitution, and they've targeted our people on top of it. But they want the people's spirit to be broken. They want you to feel that you have no way out and to submit. You get the whole point. What I'm presenting to you, that mentally, with the people being in the spirit right mind, that they themselves become that energy vortex that they think is outside of themselves. That they actually activate what they think is God outside themselves. They activate it because it's really them, and it's in them. Meaning that your salvation is within, and it extends, extends beyond, this projection of what you believe in. Take that kind of stuff and dump it in the nearest trash can, because it really is the evolution to ascend. And most of your power will be projected actually from your mind. So will your defense mechanism. Now the deal is our harmonies with nature in moral and ethical relationship to the rules and laws of nature is really your defense. It's sort of like demonstrated where the Romans were lynching Esau, or one you call Jesus. They were lynching, and then they tried to rip his jalabu and divide it amongst each other, and they couldn't rip it. That's what that means. They couldn't rip the garment. They were trying to rip it and share it. And they couldn't rip it. What it really means is that the aura of protection, they can't get in unless you let them in. They don't want you to ever figure that out. See, the deal is the people are in a state of mind that they're subjugated. And this is what gives Rome his greater power. In other words, it's an illusion. And when you start recognizing the Wizard of Oz is a fraud, he has no power in the first place, you stop putting faith in him. When you stop putting faith in him, his fiat dies. When his fiat dies, the system that the fiat is used to control the world dies. This is what's happening today. People are losing faith in the fiat system. And the fiat system is the bulwark of the Inquisition operations. So they'll do all kinds of wars to keep people dealing with what they're calling now, they'll call it the petrodollar. That's what all your wars are about. Now, but let's not look at that instrument itself. Look at this. It is the people's faith in it that they're trying to protect. They don't want you to see that. They want you to look at the dollar. which isn't a dollar, because dollar comes from Yakum dollar, which is a gold coin. But the Constantinians came here to steal our gold and silver. They didn't come here to give you gold and silver. At what point did you not forget that they're colonists? This is where our problem is. Go ahead.
So with that being said, we know there's no money, correct?
The deal of it is to identify what money is.
Gotcha. Okay.
You see, the deals, people keep saying there is no money. Ask them what money is. And they'll think credit is money. They think Federal Reserve notes are money. They don't even know that note means debt. They don't know that dollar bill is an oxymoron. Dollar comes from Yakum dollar, which is a gold coin, etc. And it is based on the alchemical metal of the sun of this universe. And then because the economies of the waters and the rhythm of the blood and the heart is governed by the moon and Venus, etc., even when they're doing intrusions into the bodies of what they call operations, they will go look at a moon chart. And this is why they do operations in clusters based on the position of the moon.